Well, it's quite a jump in time and skill from those shorts that Stanley Kubrick made to Lolita, the film that he made in 1960. In fact, it was the film that brought Kubrick to England. There was a reason for that. Because England, if you can believe it now, was much freer morally in those days to make a film about a 40-year-old man who pursues a 13-year-old girl. Even then, there were pressures because the Lady Chatterley trial, the trial of Penguin Books for publishing an allegedly obscene novel, was going on while Kubrick was making Lolita. So obviously he had to take precautions. Those precautions, however, are validated because Vladimir Nabokov, who wrote the screenplay, also was giving his approval to the film while Kubrick was shooting it. But they had to leave out, I think, and I think Kubrick regrets it now, the element of physical eroticism. There's no contact, really, between James Mason, who plays Humbert Humbert, and Sue Lyon, who plays the 13-year-old Nymphet, a word that we all became very familiar with, except during the credit titles. And that I leave you to discover for yourself. But what they did to substitute for the lack of physical eroticism in the film was ironic comedy. Comedy is the pilot light of this film version of Lolita. It's the comedy of a man who is caught between a voluptuous mother, Lolita's mother, who's played by Shelley Winters in the film, who obviously wants to get her hands on him, and his desire to detach himself from her and apply himself to the nymphet Lolita. And it's a very, very funny kind of tenseness that's developed, which enables Kubrick to satirize a great deal of American middle-class society. It's also a sad kind of relationship, too, because by casting James Mason as Humbert Humbert, Kubrick was able to do away with any suggestion of coarseness in the character. You know that in American films dealing with the Roman Empire, we almost have a patent on playing decadent Roman emperors, we British, because I think the accent refines the dirt out of the thought. And Mason gives a very sharp-edged, a very sardonic, and a very funny performance. He underplays it, which is a great help indeed to the comedy of the film. But casting Shelley Winters was also an inspired idea, I think. I think she gives her best performance ever in this film. She's a blend of bossy momism, where her daughter's concerned, of 10-cent intellectualism, desiring to impress this cultured gentleman from Europe, of women's club energy, and at the same time of sexual greed. And she really does brilliantly. Sue Lyon, there were various opinions about when the film came out. Some said she's too old for a 13-year-old girl, and I think that's probably true. Sometimes she looks in her mid-teens, and sometimes indeed she looks in her early 20s. But there's a reason for that too. Because when you're reading the book, you're reading it with your mind's eye. But in the film, it's the camera's eye. And the camera does strange things to people, particularly when they've got not to look too young. And the other great, brilliant set piece of the film is Peter Sellers, who plays Claire Quilty, the enchanter, the ogre, the other sexual lover of Lolita, who steals her away from Humbert Humbert. It was the first collaboration between Kubrick and Peter Sellers. As Claire Quilty, the decadent playwright, he eyes people as if he's casting them for some private orgy of his own. And then later on in the film, he appears to Humbert Humbert as a cop at a policeman's convention. I mean, can you imagine any worse background whenever you are anxious to get your hands on a 13-year-old girl? Insinuating some very threatening innuendos into the relationship between Humbert Humbert and Lolita. And lastly, he appears as Lolita's psychiatrist counselor on campus, a mid-European called Dr. Zempf, chairbound. And you can see in that the genesis of the German called Dr. Strangelove, who appeared literally chairbound in the film that Kubrick was to make a couple of years later. Altogether, Lolita is a very successful film. Whether it's a completely successful version of the book is another matter. But I think its great success lies in one thing, how, by adopting all these different tones and transpositions from book to film, Kubrick was able to make one man's obsessional perversion into something that approximated to the folly of mankind.